You're about to start Albion Online, and the first thing the game does is overwhelm you with weapon choices. There are 17 different weapon trees with over 100 weapons in total, and every single one plays completely differently. So what most players do is they pick something random, realize it doesn't fit them, and end up wasting hours or just quitting early. In this video, we're fixing that. I'm going to show you the best weapon to pick from every single tree, along with a simple, cheap build you can use right away. All of these builds are beginner friendly, easy to play, and strong enough for both PvE and PvP, so you can actually progress without feeling stuck. We're keeping this fast and focused so you can quickly decide what to play, so I won't be going deep into abilities or situational choices here. And if you have any questions about the builds or how to use them, you can always ask in the comments or join my Discord. This is not about the meta or what looks cool, this is about what actually works when you're starting out. So no matter what kind of playstyle you're looking for, you'll find something here that fits you. Let's start with one of the most popular and beginner-friendly options in the game. For the sword weapon tree, we have the dual swords. If you're a new player, this is one of the best all-round weapons for both PvE and PvP. What makes it strong is the mobility and consistent damage. You can engage, disengage, and chase whenever you want, and it's strong right from the start since the core abilities are available at level 1. The downside is that it's not the strongest in pure burst, so fights can take a bit longer. So if you like fast, aggressive gameplay where you control the fight, this is an excellent pick. The build I recommend is Mercenary Hood, Mercenary Jacket, and Assassin Shoes with an Avalonian Cape. If you want a full breakdown of this build, including abilities and how to play it, I have a full guide linked below. Next up, we have the fire weapon tree, and for this one, I recommend the Great Quarterstaff. If you're a new player, this is a really strong option if you prefer ranged gameplay, especially for PvE. What makes it strong is the high area damage, which makes clearing packs and camps very fast and efficient. And it's strong right from the start, since the core abilities are unlocked early. The downside is that you don't have much mobility, so positioning is important, especially in PvP. So if you like playing at a distance and dealing consistent damage without getting too close, this is a great pick. The build I recommend is Guardian Helmet, Cleric Robe, and Demon Boots with a Limhurst Cape. If you prefer something more durable, the Axe weapon tree is a great option, and for this one, I recommend the Battleaxe. If you're a new player, this is a really strong option if you want a melee weapon with a lot of sustain. What makes it strong is the self-healing, which allows you to stay in fights longer and clear PvE content without much downtime. And it's very forgiving to play since you can recover from mistakes much easier compared to other melee weapons. It does take a bit of time to fully unlock its strongest version, so it gets even better as you progress. The downside is that it doesn't have the same mobility as something like swords, so you can't always disengage as easily. So if you like a more durable, in-your-face playstyle where you can outlast your opponent, this is a great pick. The build I recommend is Mercenary Hood, Mercenary Jacket, and Soldier Boots with an Avalonian Cape, paired with a torch as your offhand. Another strong option you can go for is from the Crossbow weapon tree, and for this one, I recommend the Light Crossbow. If you're looking for something that clears PvE content quickly, this is a really strong option. What makes it strong is the consistent ranged area damage you have access to early on, which makes it great for camps, dungeons, and similar content. And it's easy to play since most of your damage comes from straightforward abilities you can use from a safe distance. You also have some mobility in your kit, which helps with kiting and repositioning when needed. The downside is that in PvP, positioning really matters, and one mistake can cost you the fight. So if you like a simple, ranged playstyle where you deal steady damage and clear content quickly, this is a great pick. The build I recommend is Guardian Helmet, Cleric Robe, and Demon Boots with a Carleon Cape, paired with a Mistcaller as your offhand. If you're looking for something faster and more PvP focused, the Dagger weapon tree is a great option. And for this one, I recommend Bloodletter. This is one of the most mobile weapons in the game, which makes it very strong for both chasing and escaping. What makes it strong is the execute damage, allowing you to finish off low health targets very reliably. And because of the mobility, you get to decide when to fight and when to disengage. It's also a weapon that gets even better as you unlock more options, especially for different situations. The downside is that it's not the strongest for PvE, so clearing can feel slower compared to other options. So if you like a fast hit and run playstyle where you pick your fights and capitalize on mistakes, this is a great pick. The build I recommend is Mercenary Hood, Stalker Jacket and Scholar Sandals with an Avalonian Cape paired with a torch as your offhand. At this point, you've seen a few different playstyles already, so I am curious, which one would you actually pick right now? If you're not sure yet, don't worry, we've got a lot more strong options coming up. If you're looking for something more balanced, the spear weaponry is a great option, and for this one, I recommend the one-handed spear. This is a very flexible weapon that works well in both PvE and PvP. What makes it strong is the mix of range and mobility, allowing you to keep your distance while still applying consistent damage. And it's easy to control fights with this weapon, since you can poke, reposition, and reset fights when needed. It also gets more flexible as you unlock more options, since your ability choices can change depending on the situation. The downside is that it doesn't have the same burst as some other weapons, so fights can take a bit longer. So if you like a more controlled playstyle where you manage spacing and take fights on your terms, this is a really solid pick. The build I recommend is Guardian Helmet, Assassin Jacket and Soldier Boots with a Thetford Cape along with a torch as your offhand. If you prefer something more straightforward and reliable, the bow weaponry is a great option. And for this one, I recommend the regular bow. This is one of the simplest ranged weapons to pick up, but still very effective in both PvE and PvP. What makes it strong is the consistent single target damage, allowing you to apply steady pressure while keeping a safe distance. And it's easy to get value out of, since your playstyle is very direct and doesn't rely on complex mechanics. It's also strong right from the start, and you can adjust your abilities to lean more into damage, mobility, or crowd control depending on the situation. The downside is that it doesn't have much area damage, so clearing multiple targets can feel slower compared to other ranged options. So if you like a simple, consistent playstyle where you stay at range and apply constant pressure, this is a really solid pick. The build I recommend is Guardian Helmet, Mercenary Jacket, Soldier Boots with a Thetford Cape. If you're looking for something more mobile and ability focused, the Gloves weaponry is a great option. And for this one, I recommend the Battlebracers. This is a very fast-paced weapon that gives you a lot of mobility and control in fights. What makes it strong is the combination of movement and burst damage, allowing you to engage quickly and reposition just as fast. And it feels very fluid to play, since your abilities naturally chain into each other while moving around your target. You already have everything you need early on, but unlocking more options later gives you a bit more flexibility. The downside is that it can be a bit harder to control compared to simpler weapons, especially if you're not used to managing your movement. So if you like a fast, ability-driven playstyle where you're constantly moving and creating opportunities, this is a great pick. The build I recommend is Stalker Hood, Assassin Jacket and Assassin Shoes with an Avalonian Cape. If you prefer something more focused on control and kiting, the Frost weaponry is a great option. And for this one, I recommend the Great Frost Staff. This is a very strong ranged weapon that excels at controlling fights and keeping enemies at a distance. What makes it strong is the consistent damage combined with slows and control effects, allowing you to kite and manage space very effectively. You also have solid mobility in your kit, which helps you reposition and maintain that distance. It's a very safe weapon overall, since you can deal damage while staying out of reach. You already have everything you need early on, and the build works well right from the start. The downside is that it can feel a bit slower paced, and while it has area damage, clearing can take a bit longer compared to other options, especially in PvE. So if you like a more methodical playstyle where you control the pace of the fight and keep enemies at a distance, this is a really solid pick. The build I recommend is Soldier Helmet, Assassin Jacket and Soldier Boots with a Limhurst Cape. At this point, you've seen even more different playstyles. So again, which one stands out to you the most right now? If you are still not sure, don't worry, we've still got some really interesting options coming up. So if you are looking for something more focused on mobility and control, the Quarterstaff weaponry is a great option. For this one, I recommend the Quarterstaff. This is a very versatile weapon that gives you a lot of mobility and utility in fights. What makes it strong is the ability to control space and reposition constantly, allowing you to engage, disengage and reset fights when needed. And it's quite safe to play since you have multiple tools to avoid damage, recover and create distance. You already have everything you need early on and the build works well right from the start. The downside is that in PvP, mistakes get punished very hard, so you need good timing and positioning to get full value. So if you like a more mobile and control-focused playstyle where you outmaneuver and outsustain your opponents rather than overpower them, this is a really solid pick. The build I recommend is Guardian Helmet, Mercenary Jacket and Assassin Shoes with a Thetford Cape. If you are looking for something more advanced and high risk, the Shapeshifter weaponry is a very unique option. And for this one, I recommend the Prowling Staff. This is a stealth-focused weapon that relies heavily on understanding your abilities and using them correctly in different situations. What makes it strong is the burst damage combined with a high amount of utility, allowing you to control fights in a lot of different ways. You have access to tools like Purges, Reflects, and different ability choices depending on the matchup, so knowing when to use what makes a big difference. And because of that, you can avoid bad fights and only commit when you have the advantage. This is a very mechanically complex weapon and it can feel overwhelming if you're just starting out. It also requires you to unlock all of its abilities before you can fully use it properly. And careful ability selection based on the matchup is crucial. On top of that, it's significantly more expensive compared to most other options in this video. And it's much more focused on PvP than PvE. So if you like a more strategic and high-risk playstyle where you rely on timing, decision-making and adapting to your opponent, this is a really strong option once you have more experience. The build I recommend is Fiend Cowl, Armor of Valor and Demon Boots along with a Smuggler Cape. Now if you want something much simpler to get into, the Cursed Weaponry is a great option. And for this one, I recommend the One-Handed Cursed Staff. This is a very effective weapon that works well in both PvE and PvP. What makes it strong is the damage over time, allowing you to apply constant pressure while staying at a safe distance. Its main ability lets you consume those damage over time stacks to deal a large amount of single target burst, which makes it especially strong in PvP situations. And it's quite simple to play, since your main goal is to keep your damage applied and let it do the work over time. You already have everything you need early on for PvP, and the build works well right from the start. For PvE, you'll want to level it up a bit more to improve your clear speed, especially for area damage. The downside is that while your burst is strong for single targets, it doesn't help much with clearing multiple enemies, so PvE can feel slower. You'll also want to adjust your abilities depending on whether you're doing PvE or PvP to get the most out of the build. So if you like a more methodical playstyle where you apply pressure and outlast your opponents, this is a really solid pick. The build I recommend is Guardian Helmet, Assassin Jacket and Soldier Boots with a Forged Sterling Cape paired with a Mist Collar as your offhand. If you prefer something more durable and control-focused, the Hammer weaponry is a great option. And for this one, I recommend the Forgehammers. This is a very tanky weapon that gives you a lot of control in combat. What makes it strong is the combination of crowd control and survivability, allowing you to stay in fights longer while disrupting your opponents. It also has solid mobility, which helps you reposition and stay on top of your targets. And it's quite forgiving to play since you can take a lot of damage and still recover if things go wrong. You already have everything you need early on, and the build works well right from the start. The downside is that your damage is lower compared to other weapons, so fights can take longer. So if you like a more tanky and control-focused playstyle where you outlast and disrupt your opponents, this is a really solid pick. The build I recommend is Mercenary Hood, Mercenary Jacket and Cleric Sandals with a Carleon Cape. At this point, you've seen most of the core playstyles in the game, so I'm curious, which one are you leaning towards right now? If you're still deciding, don't worry, we're going to cover the remaining options as well. For the Mace weapon tree, I recommend the Oathkeepers. This is a more unique weapon that focuses on sustain and support rather than pure damage. What makes it strong is the ability to heal and protect yourself while still being able to fight, which makes it very hard for opponents to deal with you over time. And because of that, you can stay in fights much longer and recover from situations where other builds would struggle. It's also quite forgiving to play since you have multiple tools to keep yourself alive. You already have everything you need early on, and the build works well right from the start. The downside is that your damage is lower compared to most other weapons, so fights can take longer. You're also quite cooldown reliant, so timing your abilities matters a lot, and while you have ways to reset them, that can still be interrupted. So if you like a more sustain-focused playstyle where you outlast your opponents and stay alive through pressure, this is a really solid pick. The build I recommend is Assassin Hood, Stalker Jacket, and Assassin Shoes with a Carleon Cape. For the Nature weapon tree, I recommend the Great Nature Staff. This is one of the safest weapons you can play, especially if you want a lot of sustain and survivability. What makes it strong is the healing, allowing you to recover through most fights and stay active without much downtime. And because of that, you can take fights more safely and keep going even after taking lots of damage. It's also very forgiving to play, since mistakes are much easier to recover from compared to most other weapons. You already have everything you need early on, and the build works well right from the start. The downside is that your damage is lower compared to other weapons, and you rely heavily on auto attacks to make it work, so clearing can feel slower. You also don't have much mobility, so once you commit to a fight, you're more or less all in. So if you like a more safe and consistent playstyle where you focus on staying alive and outlasting your opponents, this is a really solid pick. The build I recommend is Guardian Helmet, Cleric Robe and Soldier Boots with a Thetford Cape. For the Holy Weapon tree, I recommend the One-Handed Holy Staff. This is a more active healing weapon that focuses on burst recovery and defensive utility rather than passive sustain. What makes it strong is the ability to quickly restore large amounts of health while also protecting yourself with defensive tools, allowing you to survive situations that would normally get you killed. You also have access to abilities that give you extra defenses, temporary immunity, and increased healing, which makes your survivability much higher when used correctly. You already have everything you need early on, and the build works well right from the start. The downside is that you don't have much mobility, so positioning matters a lot. Once you commit to a fight, you need to rely on your abilities to stay alive. So if you like a more active playstyle where you manage your defenses, keep yourself up with heals, and balance between offense and defense, this is a really solid pick. The build I recommend is Scholar Cowl, Cleric Robe and Mercenary Shoes with a Thetford Cape, paired with a Mist Collar as your offhand. For the Arcane weapon tree, I recommend the One-Handed Arcane Staff. This is a more utility-focused weapon that offers a mix of support, control, and disruption rather than direct damage. What makes it strong is the combination of debuffs, sustain, and utility, allowing you to handle both PvE and PvP effectively. You have access to tools like a Purge, a Blink for mobility, and high-range abilities, which gives you a lot of control over how fights play out. And because of that, you can create advantages in situations where other weapons would struggle. It's also quite flexible once you understand it, since you can adapt your abilities depending on what you're facing. You already have everything you need early on, and the build works well right from the start. The downside is that you need to land your abilities consistently to get full value. Otherwise, it can feel very punishing, and choosing the right abilities for each matchup makes a big difference. So if you like a more strategic playstyle where you adapt, disrupt your opponent, and control fights in a different way, this is an outstanding pick. The build I recommend is Stalker Hood, Mercenary Jacket and Soldier Boots with a Thetford Cape, paired with a Mist Collar as your offhand. At this point, you've seen every weapon tree in the game, so pick one that fits your playstyle, stick with it, and you'll progress way faster. If you're just starting out, you can take any of these builds and follow my 0 to progression guide to get a really strong start right away. And if you have any questions about the builds or what to pick, feel free to ask in the comments or join my Discord. Also, let me know in the comments which weapon or build you want me to make a full in-depth guide on next. I'll see you in the next one.